In our first story, the Fisheries Ministry says it has secured some recycling facilities that will help rid Ghana's beaches of filth. The plastic menace has been topical in recent years, with some fishermen saying it is contributing to the low fish production that is being witnessed across our shores. Speaking at a Meet the Press series in Accra on Tuesday, the Fisheries Minister, Elizabeth Afolukwe, said her outfit has so far secured a plastic pelleting facility from the West Africa Regional Fisheries Program to help deal with the plastic solution and pollution problems we have at the beaches.
Last year, I was accused of having mentioned that the fishermen, will be picking, some plastics. I never said that during the close season, fishermen should go out and pick plastics. No. What I actually said was that under the West Africa Regional Fisheries Program, some plastic pelleting machines have been procured, and that in their free time, when an individual decides to pick some of the plastic to that facility, that individual could generate some money and also, in a way, clean up the environment so that the plastic pelleting facility will be used to pelletize the plastics and recycle them for some uses. So this is really what the Fisheries Ministry is doing. Under the West Africa Regional Fisheries Program, we have procured some recycling facilities to recycle some plastics. And so this is the explanation. This is what we are doing to clean up the beaches.
The Weja Ridge and areas around there is one section of Accra that has been impacted by recent rains. The Environmental Protection Agency and city authorities sometime last year warned of the possible collapse of the ridge as an earthquake-prone zone which has developed deep faults which could trigger a mudslide. JoyNews Maxwell Agbagba visited the area and reports the gullies have so far widened after days of rain, and residents there also say they are scared anytime there's a downpour.
The Director of Intersectorial Mining Division at the Environmental Protection Agency, Ransford Sechi, is worried and warns that the ridge could collapse anytime.
The fear is that if something is not done, something meaning stabilization of the ridge is not done, there is a potential of this whole thing collapsing to destroy all the properties down this ridge and also to block the entire western corridor with the mud that would maybe happen. We should not wait for disaster to strike before we take action.
The once beautiful lush and greenery on this ridge has given way to this brown patch. What we have here is one of the biggest gullies on the Weja Kaswa Ridge, a disaster waiting to happen. Months ago, when we visited the ridge, we saw the devastation caused by quarrying activities and the felling of trees. The vegetative cover had been completely removed, making it easy for the flood water to wash down the silt downstream. The results? Deep gullies have developed under many buildings, with some structures hanging dangerously. Our latest visit showed how the recent rains have further aggravated the woes of residents.
Chief Bibiaboko.
Okay, Chief, what's your name?
My name is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel Adai has been living at the Weja Ridge for 11 years. He fears the ridge, which is now mainly clay, could tumble down after heavy rains.
This moment, how this place becomes, it worries we people living here because of the erosions. Because first, this place was not graded. This place will be flat land, and it's covered by grasses. So now they keep all the grasses off because of the taking the gravels. That's why we are disturbed for this area. So as we stay here itself, we are afraid. We are afraid, seriously. Because anything at all can happen to us. We want you to come and look at here and solve our problems for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When we got to the top, about 5 inscriptions, quote, keep off, danger zone, no development. Ironically, there's another sign advertising an available land for sale on the ridge. I've now met Sharon Jajeto, who lives with her mother and grandmother on the ridge. She says walking on it feels like a quicksand, adding it is terrifying anytime it rains.
Anytime it rains, we get scared because when it rains, the land will be soft and smooth. That is why you have to be afraid of this land. Like that, even though our place, a big hole is there, when it rains, the land becomes so softer that we can't walk on it.
Engineer Daniel Sowa works with the Gas South Municipal Assembly. He says there are plans to demolish unauthorized structures on the land and also reclaim part of it.
That part of Accra, I should say, is an area where some years back it was given as a place for, Sonitra to take material there to construct the Legon Road. As a matter of fact, after they have taken the material away to construct the road, the place was left in the state where we are now. And as a result of that, anytime the rain comes, it washes the silt on the road and creates the mess that we all see over there. One of the solutions I was given was that we need to green the area. We need to grass the area because, grass would hold the silt from descending. So at the end of the day, it's only the water that comes. And if the water comes, the water can go through the gullies. So a recommendation was given for reclaiming of that portion of the land and grassing the place. And it was sent to the minister. I'm sure it's receiving an attention, because the situation there now has reached its alarming stage. We are sitting on the time bomb, and any landslide can happen over there because the erosion is keep on coming. If you buy land there, you throw your money away because now the place is a security zone. Those who are staying there.
And still on the impact of the rains, for those residing in low-lying and flood-prone areas, formation of dark clouds is an unwelcome reminder of an imminent disaster. And that's the story of some residents at Odona here in Accra who fear the worst could happen if drains in the area connecting the Odo are not fixed. Komladum has been visiting the area, interacting with residents, and brings us more.
2 days after Sunday's rains, some residents here at Odona in Accra are still clearing the residue. Flood waters swept through some homes here at Dansbar behind the Odona market, destroying several properties. 64-year-old Margaret Ansoma wades through what is left of a stagnant water on this compound. She is one of many occupants in this compound who frets whenever the clouds gather.
I ran out whenever the clouds gather. On Sunday, I had to be carried through the floods to my room. It gives me heartaches.
For years, residents have been enduring the floods. Evacuating is not an option for them because accommodation here comes relatively cheaper. Margaret tells me she was nearly swept away when it rained last year. She's considering moving out of this place to her hometown as the rains set in.
I've told my son I'm packing my belongings to move to my hometown.
All the occupants in this compound, including her children, had to move up this building when their rooms were submerged in flood waters.
It's scary. Whenever it rains, everyone runs up this building, which could cave in.
As many as 6 houses on this stretch were affected, and 32-year-old Nana, not her real name, says they are helpless.
When we see that it's about to rain, we don't sleep. As at now, we only pray to God to intervene because the situation here is very bad and we don't know what they are doing about it.
Walls came down, provisions from this shop were washed away, room furniture and other appliances were destroyed after a few minutes of rain.
The gutter is very small, so when it comes like that, the pressure is too much that it can't enter into the small odor very fast, and so it gets flooded and then it enters into people's rooms and then houses.
At this rate, the residents here say another heavy rain means only one thing: more destruction to property and threat to lives. They, however, believe expanding these drains that feed into the New Odo channel could mitigate the impact of the rains. Until then, when the clouds form again, residents would have to live with the trauma of a possible disaster.
Well, now let's take you to Rwanda. That's more like a success story lately. Its capital, Kigali, has been ranked as Africa's cleanest city. This just didn't happen. The people apparently are making deliberate efforts to keep their streets and markets clean. JoyNews' Matilda Pamagan traveled to Kigali and report about how the enforcement of sanitation laws, for example, have helped in dealing with filth in the city.
To many first-time or regular visitors to Rwanda, the common impression has been Kigali is the cleanest city. But at what cost has Kigali been green and clean, as seen in many reports? Many attribute this to the 2008 ban in the use of non-biodegradable polythene bags and the conscious effort by citizens to uphold this law due to the punitive measures in place. Compliance to the law on the ban on plastics and sanitation is evident when you visit the markets and the malls. Instead of a rubber bag to keep your items, you are given a paper bag. Beyond the legislation, citizens see it as a taboo to litter. If you are walking on any of Kigali city streets and throw an empty bottle, urinate on the roadside, or even spit on the road, you attract a heavy fine.
Okay, we have people who are given job to clean the city daily, but it's almost a culture of cleaning the community around the city or who are living the city. When they see waste around, they collect the waste and put it into the dustbin. And there's dustbin for degradable waste and non-degradable waste.
Ghana has these same laws, but what makes the Rwanda story unique is the enforcement and commitment on the part of citizens to uphold the law. Almost everyone in Kigali is responsible and takes part in keeping a clean environment. For example, every last Saturday of every month has been set aside for cleanliness in the country. Rangugo Diamo is the acting city engineer of Kigali.
Get in touch with the population and then show them the place where they will be working on a specific Saturday, because this is done on one Saturday in the month. Make sure that all the leaders from the top management of the country, the ministry, the leaders of the ministries, the leaders of the city, they all go out.
Do you force people to come out of their homes to clean?
What we do is not only forcing, but our strategy go hand in hand with campaigning and sensitizing. When you have taught well the citizens on what they need to do for their welfare, they will definitely do it. But of course, you have to enforce.
And people just willingly do it. They don't complain. They don't grumble.
Many people do it willingly, but of course, there are those that are a little bit do not understand why we should do it, or so on and so forth.
So with those people, how do you enforce it?
Enforcing means that you can fine people. If someone does not want to do what others are doing, then you can we enforce. We fine them on a certain fee.
President Akufo-Addo has a vision a vision to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. What will it take us to get there? What can you do to join the campaign? For Joy News, Matilda Fumaga.
Back here in Accra, which fairly is dirty, a bit dirty, but well, we have to go to the Attorney General's office, which has justified the decision to prosecute the NDC National Chairman Samuel OfosuAmpofo. Deputy Attorney General Joseph Benka insists all Ghanaians are subject to the country's laws and also must be dealt with once they breach them. Ms. Ampofo and NDC Deputy Director of Communications, Kweku Boahen, were on Tuesday arraigned on charges including conspiracy to commit crime. Their lawyers say the Attorney General is just abusing her prosecutorial powers. Correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
I don't see the reason why this matter should even come to the court in the first place. For me, it is as if the CID have no work to do.
I share the same because look at what happened at SYZ recently about OfosuAmpofo. OfosuAmpofo should have called by now.
Top NDC members, including flag bearer John Dramani Mahama and many supporters, were at the law court complex to support Mr. Ampofo, who is facing charges of conspiracy to cause harm and 2 counts of assault of a public officer. The NDC's Deputy Communications Director, Kweku Boahen, is also facing a charge of conspiracy to cause harm. The two pleaded not guilty, with their lawyers making an application for bail. Justice Samuel Osiedu granted them bail to the tune of 100,000 cedis with 1 surety. Lawyers for the two, however, say the AG is abusing their prosecutorial powers. Eddie Jutamaklo represents Mr. Boahen.
A little search, a little investigation will show Kweku Boahen was nowhere at the NDC headquarters. So how in God's name would you proceed on the basis of this faulty assumption, proceed to process him for courts? I do not understand it. And I want to beg the learned Attorney General that some of this fusojarism should stop. It is a very noble office of the Attorney General. I mean, how in God's name do you bring a citizen of this republic, prefer criminal charges against him, when a little investigation would have demonstrated to you?
It is just political intimidation. I am not sure it will end anywhere, because they themselves were not confident about the charges they were talking about. So we think that this is intimidation, but this is the beginning of the fall of the Nana Akufo-Addo's government.
The AG's office disagrees.
But it's not for them at this stage, for them to have premature ejaculation. So we are not actually going to discuss the merits of the matter, but we are assuring you that we made a judgment, and that judgment was based on looking at the entire facts and circumstances of the matter before arriving at the charges that we have preferred against the accused persons. And we are confident of the fact that we will be able to provide evidence to back the charges that we have actually leveled against. If the national chairman of the ruling party commits an offense, he ought to be tried. Simplicity. No one is above the law. And the Constitution itself is very clear on this matter, that none of us is above the law. Okay? And so any person who falls foul of the law is made to face the law. If at the end of the day the court finds you guilty or acquits you, that's the decision of the court.
The court has directed the AG to furnish the accused persons with evidence to be used against them in the course of the trial. They are to reappear on May 6.
Court correspondent Joseph Akable filed that story. But that'll be it for the latest news headlines. We have more news as we look at what headlines we have on the front and back pages. After that, we'll bring you details of how Manchester United visited the home grounds of Barcelona and were walloped.